All right, I'm actually at a loss for words because what happened on the weekend I didn't think was going to happen the way it played out. So we'll talk about that and unpack that in a second. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns. Randy Patrick here, putting the realism back in real estate. Hope you're doing well. It's August the 2nd. We are into a new month, and the big, I guess you could say, thing that happened over the weekend was about the whole eviction or foreclosure and eviction moratorium, the status of that, and we're going to see how it all plays out. So as I said, I was really surprised at actually where this ended up because I didn't have much faith considering what we've gone through over the past 15, 18 months, etc. So let's take a look at this. And I say here, and so it begins July 31st. Yeah, things are going to change in the housing market. It's a starting point. I think everyone has to temper their expectations. We're not going to have mass hysteria and chaos right away, but it's the start of maybe some unraveling of some things and maybe some opportunities and some price reductions of things on a going forward basis in the future. So again, really, really interesting how it played out. But first of all, if you'd love to find out the distressed properties that are hanging out in your area, your neck of the woods, go to gethousingdata.com. That's gethousingdata.com. It's my partnership with foreclosure.com. They are the number one provider in the U.S. for listings of distressed properties. So go to gethousingdata.com to check it out and see what's happening in your neck of the woods, I always say. Not to belittle the last week, but Case Shiller was released, and quite frankly, I'm over Case Shiller. It just keeps going up. We know that. Case Shiller information, as you can say, I guess, it's a tag-along, drag-along calculation, so it's a couple months, I guess you could say, behind from where we are currently. This is May's Case Shiller. Clearly, we're way above the 2006 peak, so everything kind of increased in May. As a matter of fact, we are now 38.1% above the previous housing bubble, which was back in July 2006. So anybody who's naysaying on the bubble side, this is your proof here. Look at the from trough, 90% across the board from the trough, which was back in Feb 2012. So certainly has been a recovery, to say the least. Whether that's been a managed or controlled recovery is up for debate, clearly. But we can see that we're almost 40% now, I guess you say, from the peak, so the previous peak. So it's pretty big time. And not to get into every location, but just so in case you're wondering, basically this is the top 20 or the 10 city composite index. Every single city on the index had a double-digit year-over-year price or value increase, headlined by Phoenix, which was 25.9% year-over-year, followed by San Diego, 24.7% year-over-year, followed by Seattle, 23.4% year-over-year. Everything else, those are the only ones that actually broke the 20 percent year over year. Everything else was greater than 10, between 10 and 19.9. So there you go. So basically every location on the top 20 index, double digit appreciation for the year over year over May 2021. And first of all, if you're not already a subscriber, if you could please help my channel grow and please subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. Secondly, if you could validate or verify your subscription. As I said, I always lose subscribers for unknown reasons, so if you could certainly do that, that would make me happy and I would appreciate it. So thank you very much. All right, so of course, what was the deal? So I was watching this diligently all day Friday. I was caught up in some meetings and some sessions I had to attend down in the county courthouse on some stuff for clients, and I was watching this and trying to see what came on, and basically the House fails to extend eviction moratorium ahead of the 6-week recess. So that was one of the news items. House skips town after failing to extend the eviction moratorium. Moratorium, what can I say? FHA extends eviction moratorium for foreclosed loan borrowers. So I want to just sort of clarify things here. So basically, what happened was the Biden administration called on, the government or anybody that could help to, extend whatever mercy they could on evictions, renters, foreclosures, stuff like that. So the Federal Housing Administration, so FHA, basically was able to, I guess you could say, announce some extensions that really was just on the eviction side of things. So what that basically meant was if you're in a home that is going through an eviction process due to a foreclosure that's backed by a government-backed mortgage, then they were not going to evict you for a period of 2 more months. So that really was the only sort of reprieve that was made available out there. So whether you're Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, USDA loans, whatever, you got, and you're been foreclosed on and you're facing an eviction from that foreclosure, you've got yourself an additional 60 days. And I think what they'll do as well, too, if you're being evicted as a renter and your owner has an FHA or back type mortgage, same thing applies to you here. So want to be clear that that was designed, obviously, to do its part. So that where it could basically work, it did. So with today's announcement, mortgage servicers must continue to halt evictions for FHA single-family Title II forward and home equity conversion mortgage foreclosed properties, except for those properties that are legally vacant or abandoned. So basically, if people have fled the coop or abandoned the properties, like it's been going on for the past few months, foreclosures are going to take place. There's no issues with respect to that. But realize here, though, this is an important statement. Mortgage servicers can initiate or continue foreclosures in accordance with FHA requirements once the single-family foreclosure moratorium expires as planned on July 31st, 2021. But may not evict a foreclosed borrower or other occupant. So just what I said previously. So basically, the foreclosure eviction, whether you're a tenant or a homeowner, will not occur until 60 days plus, till the end of September. But they can start to foreclose. They can start a foreclosure process, or they can continue where they left off in the process prior to the moratorium. So what we're going to see now is so there's two things that have happened here. So really, it just focuses on evictions, okay? We'll get to the other part of the eviction thing in a second here, but what this really is saying is that, we're going to start and restart our foreclosure processes right now. That's important to understand. So now we're going to see foreclosure starts happening. Now we're going to see people maybe that were in process prior to the COVID halt. They're going to restart their cases and they're going to pick up speed the whole bit. So really, it's those that were evicted or foreclosed on that had to get pushed out of their homes, so lenders could take them back. That's what this basically is taking care of right now. So really, the foreclosure market's starting back up, because if you think about it, you're not going to foreclose. First of all, they're not all going to file their backlog of foreclosures today. They can't physically do that, as volume wise, etc. They can't all file today. They're going to start plugging away at it, so things are going to happen, and the process will start to move, and the machine will start to work again. That's, I guess, my point, everybody here. So interesting enough. And this, again, all this talk is just FHA stuff. Okay, it's government-backed stuff. So a lot of the lenders who are not government-backed mortgages, who have clients in these predicaments, sometimes there's no restriction here. Go ahead, start your foreclosure process. Continue, start putting things to sale. They were actually starting to do that as well, but we'll probably see the policy will be internally is to pick up the pace for the non-government-backed mortgages as well too. So very, very interesting here. Obviously, we're talking about renters now because the eviction. So that was for the FHA stuff. So that FHA was able to pull out a little bit of relief for some of its base here, but ultimately in the end, the eviction ban expiration leaves renters in the South, appearing most vulnerable, but across the whole board here. So basically, if you're a renter and you're not an FHA backed mortgage location and you're behind your rent, you can be facing eviction now. So what are we going to see here? We're going to see a lot of politics going along with this. We're going to see a lot of outcry. We're going to see, I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, courts are going to start to get overrun. Things will start to process. So it's just, and my thoughts, I'll sort of unpack that in a second here. But, it's interesting just to see that this is going to pick up now. And we've been waiting for this for a long time. Ultimately, in the end, what they're saying here is that, the administration was made aware of this, all right? So a while ago that the Supreme Court basically said that, the CDC could not impose any more moratoriums, unless there was like a government act of Congress type thing. So this is what one of the Supreme Court justices, that's how they rule. They rule 5-4, I believe, here. So, it's not like this is a big hit coming at the last minute, that there's a big change here. This was talked about. This was already figured out, a while ago. So if the government hadn't enacted anything, shame on them. I know on Friday, one of the reps, I think it was Maxine Waters, put together, or Thursday or late Thursday, put together a bill at the last minute that did not get enough votes. And when Congress left, they left, as you saw, for their summertime what 6-week recess. So they're not going to be looking at this, and they've all left Washington now. So really, it's one of those things where, if you're looking for blame, there's been enough heads up to figure this stuff out. The blame is on multiple levels, and there's other reasons as well too. So basically, how can I put it? Renters in the southern states are among the most vulnerable. We know that. Places like South Carolina, Mississippi, Georgia areas are having a hard time. Rent increases have hit other locations, and so rents rise in the pandemic as well too. So if you're getting evicted from one place, where are you going to go? So it's not going to be very elegant here, to say the least. But ultimately, in the end, this is where some of the problem is the fact that why these moratoriums were put into play was essentially to give the federal programs, I guess, time to deploy the money. Because remember the CARES Act, this is stuff that was done earlier in the year. Well, here we are at the end of July, and very little money has actually been passed out of the CARES Act for rental assistance, right? And here's the thing too. So I guess, how can I put this eloquently? Or not trying to sound like an ass here, but the point is that these deals are always great and talked about and given media attention the whole bit, but it's the fine print we don't know about. So here's the thing: the federal program. Did you know the federal program only pays 60% of lost rent to landlords? No, didn't know that. Admittedly, that's much better than nothing, but it's also an illegal action by the government to impose such losses on the landlords. But also, what we're not talking about is the fact that a lot of these landlords, to get that 60%, actually have to agree to more constraints on how they're going to deal with their tenants and things like that. So everything comes with a price, or comes with handcuffs or whatever. So it's not as good as it seems. So mainstream wise, oh look, there's billions of dollars, like billions and billions in rental relief. But when it comes down to it, can you get it? Not really, or it's a hassle. People have to participate, and some of them times they don't. It's not the money that you actually need, and it comes with caveats and constraints. So, although the money does not go to the renters, they still have to apply, but didn't. You see, that's why almost all of the 46.6 billion in federal assistance sits undistributed. Okay, the Mississippi distribution rate is a mere 6% of allotment. So you've got a location in Mississippi here, a state which has one of the highest eviction potentials. Only 6% of the rent has been allotted. So what does that tell you? Okay, it says here the Biden administration has done little or nothing to promote this assistance. A judge in DeKalb County, Atlanta area, extended the eviction ban illegally. In my opinion, this is I'll tell you who's writing this in a second here. But at least the official wants to pay landlords 100% of back rent. But who is that it's really paying? Federal programs pay 60%. Then the local taxpayers should foot the rest. Congress and the Biden administration had a clear warning shot from Justice Kavanaugh and did nothing, not even promote the program that was in place. And I guess that's kind of and again, this is an editorial from somebody. I'm just reading his editorial here. We'll talk about that in a second. But the point is that, see, this is a vicious circle, and it's very sad. So in other words, we're not going to extend the ban. Like, we extended. We put in all these protections and solutions that were not promoted, that people don't bother getting involved with. And then at the last minute, you've got Congress or some reps of Congress, like basically going, come on, let's sign this and do another moratorium. Well, in a way, I don't want to see people on the street and have stress, et cetera. But if you think about it, it's like, well, what other choice do we have, or do landlords have, or get the money to the people that need it. Get the money in the landlord's hands. Give them the money that's allotted. Don't make them jump through hoops. When I say jump through hoops, well, this is an example. Look at the Mississippi example. The fact of the matter is, as a landlord, you can apply for rental assistance, but your application stops cold until your renter actually does their part in the application, which they may or may not do, and they may or may not have all the information that's required. So in the end, they and you may not qualify. So it's one of those things that, where's this money going to go? So and where it sits and where it's going to end up is, I don't know exactly where. That's another discussion for the future. But the whole point is that 46.6 billion is undistributed. So it's unreal. It could help so many people in a time of need. But again, Congress scrammed at the last minute, couldn't get it done, and now we'll certainly probably see political fights and finger pointing and stuff going on here. But it just goes to show the sad state of housing. Now, this actually is from it's a website. It's called mishtalk.com. So I guess his name is Mike. And I'll get to him in a second here, but he produces this. So that's why this is some of his commentary. he's basically looking at households not current in rent. He went and did some analysis from the Census Bureau and got this information number. So really, we're looking at about almost 7.4 million households not current on rent. All right, which was interesting. The Census Department reported, almost 51 million people living in rental units, with about 7.4 million behind in rent. Importantly, the Bureau also reported that 72 million people, surveyed didn't respond as well. So there seems to be some, we're lacking. So out of that 72 million that didn't respond, how many are going to fall in these various buckets here? But it's a lot of people, it's a lot of numbers, and I'm sure, like anything, it's underrepresented. So basically, 12.7 million people are in 4.859 households fear eviction. Those numbers are highly understated. The census total shown in the chart above is off my total numbers, whatever. The House is now in recess with warning shots by the Supreme Court ignored. Place the blame. There's a huge amount of blame to spread around. But please note that even the Democratic governed states fail to promote the federal rental assistance programs. Although through June, only $3 billion of an allocated $47 billion was spent. So that's really what, $44 billion sitting around there. And again, I've actually had personal experience with this with some of my clients trying to get our hands on this money, and it's a big revolving circle. And again, optically, we've allocated all these funds. Can you actually get them? It's a whole different ballgame. All right. Again, he's blaming two people down there. You can read that for yourself. But the point is, you can't go at the last minute to Congress and go, we got to fix something, when they had a lot of time to figure this stuff out or do things. So there you go. So again, he goes, start at the beginning. We need to go back and start at the beginning. Eviction moratoriums just plain wrong without compensation to the owners. It's one of those things. And when you talk about eviction moratoriums being extended, it's up, total it up, and you have not been paid for 15 months, but all your bills are due, and that's flat out unconstitutional confiscation of property. So I've talked about this before, that the small landlord, the mom and pop landlord, are the targets here. This is where the wealth transfer begins. So by doing what they've done, by having how many months of eviction moratorium, granting a ton of money for rental assistance, not promoting it, not making it available, having specific caveats and stuff like that, it really is. I don't know if it was ever designed to help in the first place. You see, so we'll see how this plays out. But to be quite honest with you, I was really surprised that something wasn't done Friday or over the weekend. I fully expected that there'd be some changes and we'd have some more pushback. So the only push that was given is from the FHA side, which really is, from a rental perspective, is not much at all. So interesting here, when you take a look at this, 12 million households face eviction, blah, blah, blah. We're going to go through this. It's the same thing. It's just a different article. I want to show you some charts here. So it's about people's confidence, their ability to pay, and what's actually happening now. And this is the most important thing here. So ultimately, in the end, when you start looking at this and sort of summarizing, we've got this. So 7.4 million renters not current. Now, what's a bit foggy though is I don't know whether this is households or this is renters. So again, there could be more than one renter in a household, right? But for their purposes, their households calculation is you got to be 18 and above, okay, to be tabulated in this. So 7.433 million. I don't know again if it's people or households. Not too clear on that. When you take a look at the mortgage payment status, same thing. You got total homeowners, 127 million. 46 and change owned free and clear. 74 million has a mortgage that's current. About 5.9 not current. About 400 grand didn't respond. So there you go. So same thing. So that's almost 6 million people who are not current. And what we don't know is it this households or is this actual renters, which can be counted more than one person per household. So that's not really clear, but I'm kind of thinking it's households because that's sort of how. Actually, I don't even know, to be honest with you. I don't know. I tried to look this up. So it's one of those nebulous numbers here. So again, we're not talking, but I guess the point here is that number of 5.951, almost 6 million, is not the just under 2 million that's being bantered around by Black Knight Financial to say, the problem we have here is small. Okay, well, so let's take two person, almost 6 million. Well, if we take the average of maybe probably 1.5. Per household, you're going to be looking at 3.5, 4 million, so to speak, 4.5 million, whatever the number boils out to be. So more than the under 2 million that they talk about. That's all the media refers to. So again, numbers being underreported. And to be quite honest, what he's saying here is based on his information here. Is that when you take a look at this, I pulled this off some detailed information. I know it's hard to see. So the top part of the chart is the entirety. The bottom part is that top part blown up. So basically, and I want to show you actually this. This is the foreclosure stuff. So out of those people who aren't paying the mortgage, basically, this says housing units. It says total population 18 years and older in owner-occupied housing units with a mortgage. So well, I mean, it could be just people, not just actual it's probably not a one-to-one relationship with the units here. But anyway, the whole point though is that you got 5.951 million people who essentially are not current on payments. Well, the question is likelihood of having to leave this house the next 2 months due to foreclosure. So this is interesting. So that's why I pulled this chart up. So very likely. So people are saying, hey, in the next 2 months, 345,000 and change think it's very likely they're going to be forced out by foreclosure. Okay, somewhat likely 746,000. All right, so you got almost over a million people saying it's somewhat likely or somewhat and or very likely they're going to be gone. So they think in 2 months here. Okay, so think about that. That's a lot of people, a lot of households there, right? Not very likely the 2.1, not likely at all 2.6 mil. Now, that's the thing, because obviously they're thinking, well, the foreclosure process could take time. I'm not going to be out of here. Again, this is just leaving your house in the next 2 months. So it just really is a litmus test as to where the mindset is of these occupants and what they think is going to happen. Whether these numbers play out exactly as it's laid out here is basically who knows, right? This is just sampling and basically some surveys going, what do you think is going to happen to your home situation here? But interesting to see that the likelihood is over a million. It basically is what it's about almost 1.1 million people that believe that within the next 60 days they are somewhat likely or very likely to actually lose their homes to foreclosure, which is very surprising. So again, mainstream media downplaying sort of the importance of this and where people are really at with respect to this situation here. So to summarize sort of what he's saying here is that you got basically we've got essentially 50 million plus renters, 127 million homeowners, 72 million unknowns. And out of that unknowns, I guess that was, they talk about it, some of those unknowns are not current or maybe in trouble. If they are current, we don't know. So that's a big number. I mean, 72 million that are not accounted for again, how the census unaccounts for them, I don't really know. But the point is there's this nebulous number out there that out of that 72 million, there's going to be a portion that's going to fall into the rental bucket, portion that's not that feels they're going to be evicted or cannot pay. There'll be a portion that falls into the mortgage bucket and the foreclosure bucket that are facing foreclosure or can't pay their mortgage, whatever. So ultimately, in the end, as he's saying here, is that the numbers that he's presenting really is it's an underestimate because of the nature of the information here. So 4-point synopsis, 7.4 million renters are not current, 5.95 homeowners not current. So again, he's saying homeowners here, which again is a homeowner, 2 in 1 or 1.5 in 1 unit. I don't know, but the whole point is, homeowners not current. 8.71 million homeowners have little or no confidence in ability to pay their mortgage. 12.71 million renters have little or no confidence to pay their rent. All right. So basically, significant other details. The above numbers are undoubtedly understated because of the status of 72.17 million households is unknown. Rent plus back rent due August 1st. There will be no more rent moratorium without congressional action as per Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And on September 1st, the federal unemployment benefits expire. So basically, and all this, they're sitting on all this money for rental assistance. So I don't think this has worked. Like in the end, the market's been choked. Landlords are hurting, and looks like the programs have failed. So it's not a very good scene right now anywhere. So again, what's my position on this? Well, as I said, Friday I was thinking, we're going to see something, we're going to see something happen, and then I actually heard an attorney at this hearing say, "Oh, FHA granted, additional moratorium." I'm like, okay, really, but I wasn't seeing this on other news feeds, and I got into it a little deeper. It's like, okay, the FHA, just the FHA loans had a 60-day reprieve on foreclosure evictions. All right, didn't say anything about processing foreclosures and stuff. So we're going to see that step up here. With respect to the CDC, well, that's kind of, that was kind of their overlay, like the CDC, rental eviction moratorium. Well, a lot of we'll call it landlord groups have fought that. It's been called unconstitutional in other courts, obviously shut down by the Supreme Court justices, saying, we can't just allow them to extend it because it's not part of their realm. Like, it's been found that this moratorium is beyond the scope of what the CDC can be stating, controlling, whatever they can recommend, but they actually can't implement these moratoriums unless Congress gives them that power, that right, and Congress didn't, and they're gone for 6 weeks. So what's going to happen in the future? Well, here's what's going to happen. Stuff's going to take place. Stuff's going to start, and maybe it's a test. Maybe it's we're going to see exactly how many people fall in these categories and how many people are having problems with getting evicted and things like that. So I think the problem now is that we're looking at statistics. It's a bit nebulous. We don't know how it's going to play out. So who knows? Clearly, a lot of the Congress people are calling for emergency sessions to get stuff back in play here. I just don't know what's going to happen. So part of me is like, okay, let's go forward with what was laid out for us right now. So what we're going to see is we're now going to see foreclosure sale dates get set. Okay. Because now, if you're in certain states that are what I call judicial, well, guess what? Since the moratorium's over, now the attorneys for the lender have to go to court and get a hearing or to reset. So the 60 days, I mean, to get you put a motion in right now, maybe it gets granted within 30 days for a 30-day sale. You see, so the 60 days will just get eaten up by that. So it's not a big deal. There's going to be volume. There's going to be backlog. There's going to be stuff going on. Courts are going to get sort of stifled with respect to the eviction moratorium being lifted and all the cases that are growing, etc. So a little bit of chaos out there. But couple that with what we see, some more inventory coming on, some price points dropping, a low home buyer sentiment, and now we're actually seeing this kind of crumble a bit here. So for everybody who was like, hey man, you keep talking about this for 2 years. Well, yeah, could we plan COVID? No. Did we have to deal with all the moratoriums? Yes. Is it out of our control? Yes. Well, things are starting to maybe tip the other way now, and we'll see how that happens. So I'm not saying this is great for everybody here. The ultimate goal is, can we get cheaper priced property down the road? We should be able to. This is the start. So as I've mentioned, it's not like we're going to suddenly have 100,000 properties come on August the 2nd and 3rd that are distressed, so you can go buy in and get cheaper prices. It's not going to work that way. It'll be a process here. But my point is that July 31st was the date, so it began, and there's more drama to come. I'm certainly not holding my breath. This is going to run smoothly, but at least from and I'm thinking that's going to be more on the eviction of renters side as opposed to the foreclosure side. You see, that's what's going to happen. So if anything does happen, it's going to be hurting landlords as opposed to just basic homeowners. That's kind of my opinion there. So here we have it. So as I said, funny enough, even NAR, okay, this is the last kind of party shot here. Even NAR, National Association of Realtors, actually had, where's my, I don't think I have with me here. I didn't bring it. Okay. Basically, they put out a press release saying that they urge, Biden and the Congress to not extend the eviction moratorium, citing the fact that, a lot of the housing is made up of small landlords, mom and pop small landlords that actually, provide housing, low affordable or low income housing, affordable housing to a lot of people across the country, and they need to get paid. They need to get remedy here, and because this is going to cause more problems. So NAR, well, and I'm not surprised with this because again, a lot of real estate agents work with a lot of investors, smaller investors who are finding properties for them, stuff like that. So even NAR said, no way, we do not support another an extension of the moratorium. We got to start solving the problems, getting the money out to the people now, as opposed to as people say, kicking the proverbial can down the road. That does not make sense to keep on doing that. So, I just thought that was really interesting when I saw that, and that came, I think, on Thursday, I believe here. So, as I said, and so it begins. So it began. I'll have to redo that, and things are happening. So I can tell you that, a lot more speaking engagements coming up, a lot more webinars I'm going to be on, a lot more people inquiring. So everybody now is going to start to focus on this. So if you've talked to me before and you've not thought about the timing, well, the timing is now. Okay, it's starting. So jump on board now, guys. I mean, you got to start doing this. I've got a lot of stuff on the go here. Here's an example. Do you want to know how to acquire a property that is $75,000 under fair market value? Well, I will show you how to do that. That's called a short sale, all right? And this is an example of what's happening in my local MSA down here in the greater Tampa Bay area. We can take a look at the single-family home median home price is about $332,500 for May, and that the median sales price for a short sale was $257,750. That's about $75K in equity, about a 20% discount. So this is why people will gravitate towards this market, because you can buy much cheaper homes. All right, because as much as again, if you want to listen to mainstream, you go right ahead. I think people who know what they want to do and want to go down a certain path understand how to read between the lines and know that it's starting to break apart now. We're starting to see this is my first video after the July 31st and the Congress thing that didn't happen. So we're going to start to see some things take place now that will I guess you could say start the unwinding of the housing market, and things will fall where they may. So my point to you, get involved, all right? Start figuring the stuff out now here. Remember that distressed sales, so that 1% of the entire housing market across the board. This is June's NAR statistics. 1% of the entire housing market is distressed sales, which are made up of short sales and foreclosed bank-owned properties, known as REOs. So if I go back to the slide here, I show you and going, well, out of 5,200 sales in my MSA, only 19 were foreclosure REOs and 14 were short sales. That's less than 0.5% for each one. Okay, that's fractions of a percent, which tells you that no one is looking at this market and no one's doing this business. That's why the opportunity to get involved should be paramount, and everyone should be going, I want to figure this stuff out. Okay, so that's my point to everybody here. How would you like to sell a property and make $75,000 in income? Because guess what? If you buy these properties at a discount, you can fix them up and you can sell them back at retail or just move them or whatever. So the opportunity to purchase, to acquire, whether it's a primary cash flow is there, the opportunity on the other side to get it and do something with it to make it bigger and better, to make the income is there as well too. So it just depends on how you look at it, your perspective here, guys. So I'll tell you how to engage the distressed housing market. All you have to do is connect with me, Randy at luxuryshortsales.com. Send me your information. Make sure I have a phone number to get a hold of you. More like about 75% of people who reach out to me do not include their phone number, and then I have to write you back and go, okay, you've got my number. You're not calling me, so how do I get a hold of you? So please include your number, and we can go from there. If I haven't hit you up yet, re-hit me up on the email. Okay, it's been very busy, and it's only going to get busier because everybody now is going to start to look at this market and say, now is our chance. All right, so what I always say, it's a second chance at a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Housing Bubble 2.0, as I've been saying all this time here, guys. All right, thank you very much for the views, likes, comments. Please share the video with your family and friends. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, and remember, it has begun. We're here right now, and it's going to, we're not sure how it's all going to play out, but at least the starting point is finally here. There'll be curveballs, there'll be caveats, there'll be pushback and headwinds, whatever you want to call them, but it started. We're opening up. Things are going to change now. We've tipped over the edge, and we're going down the other way. Take care, guys. We'll talk to you soon.